Hey guys, SirVern back here, and today I'm reviewing Severed Steel for the PS5. This is a single-player, first-person shooter action game. So let's get right into it. Gonna go over the same 5 categories I always do: graphics, performance, gameplay/story, replayability, then fun factor. Give them a score 1 to 10, average them up, and talk about the game a little bit. So let's start with graphics. I had a little trouble with this one because, you know, it's not going for hyper realism, but it's a unique style that I really like. I think the gun models look pretty good. Originally I had like a 7, but I debated between a 7 and 8. Ended up giving an 8. I know that that's really high, but I think for what the art style it's going for, it looks really good. I like the effects, like the gun models. Like I said, enemy models are pretty cool too. It's just stylistic and pretty cool looking, and pretty clean. So, and it also has performance mode. It has graphics fidelity mode, and then a frames per second mode. And I played it in frames per second, so you can even bump it up a tad bit more. And that's why I gave it a pretty high score, because I like all the graphical settings. It's really neat. So an 8 for graphics. Performance, I gave a 7.5. I chose frames per second, so it's pushing out as many frames per second as it can. But I did see some frame drops here and there, and I do have variable refresh rate enabled, so it must have been a significant drop because I noticed it a few times. And then also, I don't know if it'll show it here. I think it will in one of these clips that I have. That like every once in a while it'll just show your hand, but you know you have a gun in there, because if that's the posturing they do when they'll shoot, of course. And then you'll see bullets come out of your hand. So I ran into that bug a few different times. This may have been like an indie game. I'm not really sure. It's not a full price game. I saw this on Metal Jesus' Rocks, one of maybe it was his first PS5 collection videos, and it looked really cool. And it is really cool. It's really fun. So I gave it a performance. I gave it 7.5. I debated with that one as well, but there was enough bugs to knock it down a good bit. Nothing game breaking, so that's always good. Next is gameplay/story. So I really like the gameplay. It is addicting. It's like a Twitch fast-paced shooter. You're dodging, constantly doing action moves. If you're doing an action move, you can see the red, like the looks like you're flying through, like fast. It looks like that right there. But that is when you're doing some kind of trick or stunt, they call it. So you're jumping, sliding, diving. When you're doing that, you're invulnerable to damage, and you can also slow time. And you have little missions you're going towards. Like right there, I had to destroy the engines. So, but essentially what you're doing is you have an objective. It's either destroy all of, in this case, engines, but it'll be collect these things or kill all the enemies. So it's not super varied, but the gameplay loop is really fun. You run out of ammo with a gun. You can kill another enemy, take their ammunition. Some enemies are harder than others. Some have like backpacks on, like flamethrowers that you need to like shoot the backpack to kill. It's fun. It's really cool. There's not a ton of different enemies, but enough to keep the 2-hour-ish campaign lively, so you don't really get bored of it. And I think it's a good length for what it is. But anyway, so gameplay/story. I'm gonna dock it a little bit because of story. So the story has these very, I'm gonna say it, lazy cutscenes. They're basically a few screenshots with movement, panning, and that's it. They're gray. You have no idea what's going on in the story, honestly. It's up to your imagination. You have a general idea what's going on, but there is no voice. There is no like animation. It's essentially just gray cutscenes, and I'm sure I'll show some here in a second. I never know what gameplay I capture. I just capture moments that I think look pretty cool, and then talk about them as they come up. And next, coming up soon, you'll see some screenshots, because the game is pretty. Like I said, I gave it an 8. But the story, like I said, is pretty bland. Gameplay is great, and so I averaged that out to a 7.5. respectable. You know, this is a pretty good game, and like you can see the holes right here. You have a shoot. Your arm is off, so you have a shooter like a cannon, and you can shoot holes in walls, go through it. It has cool reflections, cool neon lights everywhere. It's a really neat game. So here's the cutscenes I was talking about. That's the story. Essentially, it'll pan in, move around, but that's the whole story. So there's not much to it. So gameplay slash story, like I said, 7.5. Replayability. I always say this, but I am very, very tough. Okay, right. Notice those this in the previous image. That's going to add to the replayability. So replayability, I'm going to give a 7.5. That's very high for me, considering this isn't a strategy game, and it's only a 2-hour campaign. So that is a very high score for me. Replayability is super high because it has, of course, the 6-level, 2-hour-ish campaign. With like 5 different difficulties, which is really cool. And then it has New Game Plus opens at the end. And then it has 2 different modes, Firefight and another one where, but Firefight, you have different objectives and levels, like kill 2 guys while wall running, or so many headshots, or different objectives for different levels. So it adds a whole bunch of different ways to play the game. And then there's a separate mode where you collect cards, and then you can use those cards like they're like buffers. See, here's an example of shooting out of my hand right here. So performance, and it does that every once in a while. I encountered that bug like 2 or 3 times in the 2 hours, so that's a lot. Anyway, replayability is quite high because you can replay the game multiple times. There is leaderboards, 3 different modes. You can beat the campaign with some of the upgrades that you unlock from Firefight. The trophies are great. Just a lot of different trophies to pursue. They're not easy. This is a game that I'll keep installed on my PS5, and if I ever want to just sit back and watch a YouTube video or relax while I play a game, this is just almost like a musical with guns. Like, you're just flying around. It's just mindless killing and arcade fun. This is a cool game. So replayability, I give a 7.5, which, like I said, is very high for me. Fun factor. I had a good amount of fun with this game. I thought it was fun pretty much the whole way through. In fact, I'm going to cut here and come back. Alright, I'm back. So, I bumped it up. I had a lot of fun with this game. I wrote 7.5 initially, and I just bumped it up to an 8, because I had a lot of fun. This isn't like the most BA game you've ever played, but it's fun. It has enough carnage in it, destruction, challenge, verticality, different enemy types, a good amount of gun types. I really liked this game and had some fun with it, so I went from a 7.5 to an 8. So to go over them one more time, we're going to go graphics 8, performance 7.5, gameplay slash story 7.5, replayability 7.5, fun factor 8, and that averages out to a 7.7 out of 10. That's a good game. Not a great game, but there's things about it that are super interesting and unique. I like games that, switch it up a little bit. This is a unique shooter, and I like single player shooters. I like that there is no multiplayer component. Don't get me wrong, a multiplayer shooter is always fun, but sometimes a single player shooter is great, where it has difficult trophies, a lot of different areas to play in. This is cool. This is a good, solid shooter, especially for the price. I don't really have a ton of notes about this game, other than you can also watch Metal Jesus Rocks, watch his PS5 videos, and he'll mention this game as well. This is a lot of fun. I've probably put 3.5 hours into it. I've tried out every mode. It's a solid pick for me. Hidden gem, I know that's probably overused nowadays, but this is definitely a hidden gem for the PS5. I went on people or players also playing it, like on your PS5, it'll show like trophies on the main screen, and people play the game. 0 out of my friends list play the game. So this is going to be a hidden gem for me. So go pick it up, especially for $30. You can't go wrong. SirVern out.